We've been told that this coronavirus has shown, yet again, that Australia is hopelessly racist. In fact, what it's actually shown is how desperate race activists and journalists and even politicians, how desperate they are to smear their own country, even the Prime Minister. But wow, did that come unstuck today? It's been such an eye-opener. For instance, you'll remember how the Morrison government was vilified for sending Australians evacuated from China to Christmas Island to be quarantined for 2 weeks to check that they didn't have the coronavirus. Wow, the pile-on from the left, from race baiters. This was racism. Former Race Discrimination Commissioner Tim Southphomassane, for instance, now a professor, said Australian citizens deserve better from their government. The government wouldn't send its citizens to the Christmas Island detention centre if they were white. And the left-wing doctors' union, the AMA, said Christmas Island wasn't equipped medically to deal with these people. So cruel. And over at Channel 9, Carl Stefanovic, who's a nice guy, but he's lurched to the left since he's got back to TV, he was feral with the Home Affairs Minister.
Heard there from Dr. Tony Bartoni from the Australian Medical Organisation, saying that they've not been consulted on this and that we need to find a more humane solution. What's your response?
Do you think you're going to have many takers for the evacuation? I mean, trading a quarantine zone with a deadly virus for a hellhole?
Well, for a start, 241 Australians trapped in China did indeed think it was a great idea to go to quarantine at Christmas Island rather than stay in China. And they've now, after 2 weeks there in this hellhole, just been flown home to the Australian mainland. Let's now hear from some of them about their time in this terrible hellhole at Christmas Island with this appalling medical care and the staff from our racist government.
Medical team, they're very good, very helpful, and we are kind of feel safe there.
Actually really good. Made some new friends and actually enjoyed the place.
Oh, it was lovely actually. When we first got there, we were a little bit stressed, but the people there really done a really good job, and they're really helpful, really friendly.
The army people and the nurse and the doctors, they're very friendly and they're very supportive.
What a surprise! They were safe. They were happy. They were well looked after by friendly medical staff and army people. But weren't these poor Chinese Australians actually upset by their racist treatment by this Morrison government? Well, here's what one Sydney woman told an ABC journalist at the airport about just how she felt about her treatment by this supposedly racist Australia.
What I feel is the people treat us very nice, very, very nice. When we first arrived in Ireland, they said, welcome home. One word, make your heart very warm.
Welcome home, lady. Well, okay then, but what about what that ex-race discrimination commissioner said, Tim Southphomassane, that we'd never send white Australians to Christmas Island? So how does he explain this bloke, also just back from the island and detention there?
It was fine, yeah. Just a camping trip, really. Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Well, I've got to say too, what does all that say about all those journalists, particularly on the ABC, who've spent years and years describing the Christmas Island detention centre as, those hellhole, virtual torture centres for the poor illegal immigrants we once sent there? How about that? But this myth that Australia is racist is now so hardwired into our culture that even our very top politicians just leap to the worst conclusions at the slightest excuse. I mean, you take the lectures we've been getting recently about how racist Australian shoppers have been refusing to spend their money at Chinese shops because of the coronavirus scare.
The fact is that there has been a rise in racism as a result of the coronavirus. To our Chinese Australians, Labor stands with you, and I'm sure the whole of this parliament stands with you in standing up against the increased racism and expresses solidarity with you, and I encourage people to support our businesses in places like Ashfield and other places right around the nation.
I would just like to endorse the Leader of the Opposition's comments and also add, as I have on a number of occasions, extend my great thanks to the Chinese Australian community for the way that they have dealt with what has been a very challenging time for them.
But wait. Now, racism against Chinese Australians, or anyone else, yes, condemn it. And yes, again, Chinese shops in heavily Chinese suburbs like Melbourne's Box Hill, well, they are doing it very tough. Most of their customers have vanished.
The last 2 weeks, my business has taken a loss of at least 50%. I'm losing about $1,000 per day. And I don't think we can last more than another 2 or 3 weeks in this current situation.
I don't know whether you noted all the decorations in the shop there, because I've been to that Box Hill shopping centre many times, and I can tell you that most of the customers at most of the shops aren't white. They're Chinese Australians, and they are mostly the people staying away, as the Chinese Chamber of Commerce admits.
The Chinese community needs to play their part as well, not to be overwhelmed by fear.
So how are these empty Chinese shops proof of Australian racism? Or are Chinese Australians being racist to Chinese Australians? Maybe that's it. I mean, seriously, this racism card is the most overused card in the deck ever played. And this coronavirus has exposed just how dishonestly and unfairly that card gets played.